you don't want to be that guy. Like, that's not the guy you want to be. You don't want to be lazy. That's not at all the benefit of these tools. But it was like they were selling it as you don't have to show up.
Hi there, welcome to AI for Good. You're here with your hosts, Dylan Bowes and Sam Wheatley. Today we're talking about AI advertising. Dylan made a comment to me just the other day about sort of ads gone wrong in AI. And I wanted just to hear his thoughts about that. I think what he's hitting on is probably ways that AI is being marketed that are just not the way we see it from our vantage point. So, Dylan, what set you off?
Yeah. I think I texted you and I said, I asked the question. I was like, why does every commercial for AI miss the mark so badly? And
Right.
there was one specific example. Some listeners may remember this, but during the Olympics this last year, Google Gemini had a commercial that was this adorable little girl and her father, and they were using it to help. The father was using Gemini to help his daughter write a letter to one of the sprinters, I think like Sha'Carri Richardson, or I can't remember who, but it was like, like help me craft it. And then Gemini was, correcting the kid's grammar and all this stuff. And there was a backlash against it, and they ended up pulling the commercial from the Olympics. So, that I thought was interesting. And then I personally saw another one that I can't even remember which of these platforms it was for, but it was this like doofus guy in his office, and he's just throwing down like this totally terrible email on his phone, and then he hits some button that translates it into professional speak, and it goes to his boss, and then you see the boss, and he's like, "This is from Darren." Like, what? I can't. He's such a dork. How could he have written this? And I just thought it was so interesting how off the mark it was. And I thought that would be something interestingly, a psychological thing that would be interesting to explore. Like, what is the reason why these companies cannot market this technology well at all? Like, it feels wrong every time.
So, what do you think about, like, what is the exact thing that hits you wrong? Like, what do you think they were saying, and why do you think it was wrong?
Well, I think I'll say with the Olympics one for Gemini, the critique of it that sort of bubbled up was, I think, the father was in a way surrendering a part of what it means to be a dad to this technology, because he was in a way, he was like absenting himself from the role of helping his and the daughter too. Like, the daughter doesn't need to have a perfect letter. It needs to be a letter that she wrote,
Right.
And so there's something about inserting AI in that interaction, both between father and daughter, and then also between the daughter and her, running idol, that felt inappropriate there. Like you're surrendering something about what it means to participate in that specific activity that felt like it was it was not the right use case, I guess.
I think we've covered some of this with, like, is AI cheating? In one of our episodes where is AI cheating? And those are actually, those two examples you're giving are kind of like AI itself saying, yes, we're like cheating.
Yeah. Like that's
Whereas
a benefit.
our argument was, no, only bad uses of AI are cheating.
Sure. Yeah, but it was using it as a selling point that you can you can cheat with me. Yeah, like I think there's something about those extremely personal interactions that feels different. I guess the other one was the guy writing an email. So it wasn't a personal thing. He was writing a work email, but
Right.
the body language that he had, he's like leaning back in the chair and he's writing it on his phone like this. And he's like, I think it needs more zhuzhing, or so, he said something silly like that.
Right.
And then that is what AI turns it into, a professional thing. But it's almost like, you don't want to be that guy. Like, that's not the
Mhm.
guy you want to be. You don't want to be lazy. That's not at all the benefit of these tools. But it was like they were selling it as, you don't have to show up.
Yeah. Mm.
And that's not at all what we say on this podcast.
No, so poof, magically you're in charge of all AI marketing for all AI products. You're the Lord Emperor of AI marketing. What would be your message, Dylan?
That's a great question. I was not prepared to answer that, because and that's an interesting question, because that might get to, it may not be that the advertising folks are dummies. Like, it may be just very hard
Hmm,
to talk about this technology in a way that is attractive to people who aren't using it or something.
correct. Yeah, no,
So,
that's a really interesting point because that's something we see is like
yeah,
there's kind of two levels of this conversation. There's the entry level and then the more advanced level of conversation. And it's not that we're saying we're elitist or anything like that, but there's
yeah,
just like a lot of things that you're kind of not aware of until you start using it. And then
yeah,
once you start using it, there's then this whole other set of questions that arise.
yeah,
And so maybe the marketing gurus are understanding they have to pitch the product to the first time users
yeah.
in order to get them in the door to have this secondary conversation.
Yeah. And maybe they don't use it. Maybe they don't use these tools, so they don't really understand it.
Or, which is the pushback I've heard from a lot of creative folks is like, it is
They don't
cheating.
want to.
They don't want to use it,
Yeah.
and a lot of marketing folks tend to be creatives and they think, oh, I'm the one
Mhm.
who's going to come up with the killer line. I'm going to get the CTA that produces results.
Yeah.
And, one of the humbling things about AI is that it is a collaboration tool.
Mhm.
Uh, it forces you into the role of a co-creator with a tool that has intelligent features to it. Um,
Yeah.
and so it is very much different than sort of being a solo artist in your garret, coming up with your idea and
Right.
delivering it to the world.
Right. Yeah, and so maybe if they're not participating in that, they're going to have a hard time figuring out the emotional resonance. I think that's kind of like
Mm,
part of what it is.
yeah.
It's like, because advertising is like, if you buy this product, you will feel like this kind of person that you're seeing on the screen. Like,
Right.
that's sort of the general formula there. And now
Mm,
now I'm remembering another AI commercial that was like, I want to say it was Microsoft, but it was like, it was just the camera, is looking at the guy on his computer, and he like clicks the button, because all the AI now, every single AI button is like the little stars,
the little
the
stars. Yeah.
same little stars. And he like clicks that, and then he like enters this vortex of like, I don't know what it is, some like creative flow, and the camera like zooms in on him, and he's like, it's almost like he's on drugs. He's like,
Huh.
whoa, like this, and and it's like, and then all of a sudden, all of these zoomy things happen on the screen where all of his work is like
Mm,
getting done automatically, just like with one click of a button. It's like, you know, I mean, it kind of, yeah, maybe it kind of does feel like that sometimes when you can see, when you could see the value, when you have the moment where you realize, like, I just saved 15 hours of work
right. Right.
with 30 seconds of work, that can be a trip, but it's not like, not that kind of trip. But
And it
yeah.
also doesn't solve there's still I mean, when you do the 15 hours of work in 10 minutes, let's say,
Hmm.
you start seeing, oh, there's other things I can
Yeah.
still do here. It's not like, it's like, oh, I would never have even gotten to this. It's like a video game where it's like you're able to
Yeah.
play at these levels that you wouldn't have even gotten to because it would have taken years to accomplish those levels. Um,
Yeah. It's yeah,
so,
the next, it doesn't make you want to just say, well, I guess my job here is done. It doesn't really feel like that. Yeah.
right. Yeah. One of the things we keep talking about is like the productivity increase from these tools, sort of the
Yeah.
acceleration of ideation and iteration and stuff like that. That would take an enormous amount of time that we're seeing we can do now much more rapidly.
Yeah.
Um, so it is trippy in that sense, but it's not like it doesn't solve.
Yeah.
It doesn't solve. There's still a problem, and they're still solving that humans have to do for the problem.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it
And
seems like
it's
a lot of these ads are promising nirvana, sort of
yeah.
total deliverance, instead of acceleration, greater input on, whatever it is. And I
I
think you're
think
right. It's probably because they're not using them. When you
mhm.
use the tool, you begin to realize, like, here's its strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah. Yeah, and the advertising gives you the sense that it's taking the human out of the driver's seat. And I think
Right,
because you're trying to get somebody to sign up for a product, for $20 a month or whatever.
right.
So it's sort of saying like, you don't have to do this. It's autopilot. You're
Mhm,
sitting back in the car's driving itself. This is kind of like, and this is maybe getting off topic slightly, but
mhm.
I think so the advertising folks may have the wrong impression about what's going on here. And then B, and this is more interesting, the people creating the technology may be out of step with what normal people's lives are like.
Interesting.
Like,
Yeah.
um, uh, there's something that I think about a lot is like this uh, tech people want all of our lives to be completely frictionless, and they always talk about no friction, no friction, no friction. And it's like, I always say, like, but friction is what produces heat, and you
Right.
need
Right.
heat to have warmth and to survive. So you want to like have some interaction with the world, but you get the sense that like
Mhm.
some of these tech people, their vision for the future is just like sliding through the universe on this like pneumatic tube that you don't have to do anything. So there might be some of
Yeah,
that as well.
I get sort of the Wally kind of
Yes. Totally.
just obese people in chairs that, are
Yeah.
totally comfortable. And
Yeah.
this is sort of philosophical, but technology just can't do that. No
Mhm.
technology can deliver us from being human.
Yep.
We are still going to have, like, anyway, I don't want to get too philosophical, but we will have problems that
Mhm.
demand human responses, no matter
Yeah.
what the technology is. And fundamentally, the challenges we face today are the same challenges all humans have ever faced. And so,
Yep.
yeah, it's
But
interesting. Like I think you're getting into the idea, like the ghost in the machine. Like,
yeah.
what are these technologies built on that
Yeah.
create some of the problems of the technology?
And I think, y- while I agree with you that we are and we always will be humans with human problems and human souls that need answers to those human questions, I think some of the people who are driving this technological progress maybe think that humans are an engineering problem that can be solved
Hmm.
with technology, or that, they maybe wouldn't put it like that, but they would maybe say, maybe they do honestly think, like, in
Yeah,
good faith. I don't buy this. They're like, sinister people or anything like that, but like in good faith they think, oh,
right.
these problems can be solved with the right technology.
Yeah, I mean,
And that's just a
the 20,
question.
kind of the 20th century was an experiment of saying the human
Hmm.
problem, the human condition can be solved with political ends.
Yeah.
And
Organization.
communism, all the isms of the 20th century kind of have left that null and void. And
Yeah.
so, like, no, there's no solution to the human problem
Yeah.
politically, socially. And so I think maybe we're just on to the technology as an attempt to solve humanness,
Yeah.
and it'll probably see the same sort of results, hopefully quicker rather than later. That no, there's something fundamentally important and beautiful about being human that
Yep.
technology and politics and sociology have to serve. The humans don't serve the ism.
Hmm.
All right, now we're into philosophy of of AI for good, but it is AI for good,
Absolutely. And that was
and
going to be
we,
my question,
yeah,
is like, because that's something we talk about all the time, is like our experience with it at our workplace has not been this utopian Wall-E kind of thing. Like, and actually it has made us more creative, more in more exploratory and collaborative with each other. But now I'm asking the question, I guess, based on what you're saying, like, do we have are we is it, do we just have a particular team of people who already think that way,
right,
and therefore we're sort of equipped better to treat it like that, or you know what I'm saying?
yeah, no, I mean, I like what we're doing, or else we wouldn't be having this podcast.
Yeah.
Um, and so we are advocating that there is a way to use this technology for good,
Yeah.
and in a way that still centers humans
Yeah.
in the tech, alongside of the tech, versus being subsumed by the tech.
Hmm.
Um, and I think if you're thinking about a philosophy of AI for your company, for your own personal use, I think one of the reasons our team has been successful is because our nonprofit talks a lot and truly believes that the human is the most important thing
Yeah.
in every equation. So our interactions with our clients, um, they are unique individual human beings who
Hmm.
have agency and who need sort of assistance with some key things. We're not there to solve all their problems or to be their saviors, but we do know in certain areas there are interventions where we can help them, and that help can actually have a positive uh, sort of wave of influence throughout their lives, and we're
Hmm.
super excited by that, and we talk about that a lot. So all that roots from the idea is that the human is the center, and then
Hmm.
everything else has to serve the fundamental humanness of the interaction. So, like even in AI, yes, we talk about wanting to have AI chatbots
Hmm.
because it's the way people want to interface with information in a quick
Hmm.
24/7, 365 kind of way that we as humans can't provide.
Hmm.
A small team can't be up 24 hours a day,
Yep.
but we can
In every
create
language. Yeah.
in every language, but we can create
Yeah.
agents that
Yeah.
can foster that conversation so that when they actually are interfacing with another human, a lot of maybe some of the stigmas or questions or problems they've had have been
Hmm.
resolved to a degree so
Hmm.
that then that human interaction is actually enhanced,
Hmm.
not denigrated by the AI.
Right. And so that foundation and that, those years and years of focus on those key insights and principles, I think have set us up to be uh, uniquely ready for implementing this kind of technology, which, based on like these commercials, like we're talking about, that
Yeah.
people can misuse or misunderstand.
Yeah. And so shout out to all you philosophy majors and all of you nonprofits and all of you sociology folks
Hmm.
out there who think about this stuff, because
Hmm.
actually this is your moment.
Yeah.
Don't feel like the technical revolution is only for engineers anymore.
Yes.
Part
Yes.
of the value of this AI revolution is it's bringing a lot of us who were sort of shut out in the earlier rounds of the technology conversation
100%.
back into the fold. And so I just
100%.
want to strongly encourage those of you out there who are not, the sort of tech background folks and think, well, I don't have anything to say to this. No, you do. Because I was just listening to this podcast the other day, and basically the tech guy was saying, all this is really raising the question of what does it mean to be human?
Hmm.
And
Which is the question Plato asked 5,000 years ago. Yeah.
so those of you who know that,
Yeah.
this is your time.
Totally. I love that. That's such a great point. And yeah, I mean that's encouraging to me even. I was an English major,
Yep.
and I graduated college in 2008, and it did feel like I had sort of signed up for a life of obsolescence in a way because of
Yeah.
that. But if you're I really like what you're saying, that now the liberal arts and the humanities and philosophy, people who love literature,
Mhm.
like the
Yeah. And that's
human
what's
condition
sad.
doesn't change.
Yeah. And that's what's sad to me, because I kind of feel a lot of these conversations, a lot of those sort of liberal arts, humanities, arts folks are picking up their ball and exiting the conversation, when
Mm,
exactly this is the exact moment those
yeah.
voices actually have influence or could have influence.